Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1602 AN. Today's date is June 27th, 2018, and the title of the episode is IMF and China Prepare for Financial Shocks and Economic Panic. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, for the past couple of months, maybe even a year now, the central banks and the corporate media and everyone else has been saying how dangerous cryptocurrencies were, that this is coming from the banks and the central banks. We need to protect the people. They cannot purchase these using their credit cards, their debit cards, and this is very, very scary for the people because they don't know what they're getting themselves into. And then all of a sudden, we started to see cryptocurrency manipulated in a way that we've never seen before, where certain entities were throwing a huge amount of cryptocurrency, mainly Bitcoin, and selling it and bringing down the price. Now remember, they accumulated a lot of this cryptocurrency from Mt. Gox, and they use this to basically make cryptocurrency look volatile. Now let's put all this together here, because they were telling us as Bitcoin was going up that this is something very scary. Facebook, Google, and many others said we're not going to allow anyone to advertise cryptocurrencies. The central bank was out there telling you that criminals are using it, terrorists are using it. It's absolutely awful. And all of a sudden, we saw cryptocurrencies become very, very volatile. And they went up and they went down. They went up and they went down. And basically, mission accomplished. They made everyone feel that, oh, cryptocurrencies, this is too volatile, it's dangerous, you shouldn't be in it. Now, we see since that whole entire episode is over, the same exact companies are saying now that it's okay to advertise cryptocurrencies. They still have a ban on ICOs, but cryptocurrencies like Facebook right now is saying that they will allow people to advertise. And of course, they rework their terms of service, and they're letting people and warning people that these are dangerous. Of course, they allow gambling on there, and that's not dangerous. But what we're seeing right now is a complete and utter manipulation of this market. And they put fear into almost everyone. And this is what they wanted to do, because this is how they move everyone away from maybe another currency, another asset that would go up against the central bank's assets, their currency. Just like gold and silver. What have they been saying for many, many years about gold and silver? That it's a barbarous relic. Nobody owns it. It's for jewelry. You don't want to have it. And of course, central banks around the world, countries around the world, they've been amassing a huge amount of gold and silver. And we see right now that this is all part of their scheme to manipulate everyone into doing what they want. And this is why now all of a sudden, you're going to see Google, you're going to see Facebook, you're going to see, the banks are saying, okay, now you can purchase cryptocurrencies, because what they've done here is they put it into everyone's, brain that cryptocurrencies are bad. That's what they wanted to do from the very beginning. Now, if you want to learn more about cryptocurrencies, you can go to the X22reportschool.com. You can look at the website there. It'll explain everything there. You can also, if you're already know anything about cryptocurrencies and you want to continue with that and learn how to trade and how to sell off and purchase cryptocurrencies before they go down or up, I would go into the trading room. Again, it's on the same site. You can look at the website. All you need to do is type in X22reportschool.com and it will bring you to that area. Now, here in the United States, we are seeing the economy continually break down. Right now, we're seeing core durable goods. They are declining right now. Now, once again, we've seen this 2 times now. This is the second month in a row that core durable goods have slumped. And this is, your washer, your dryers, the big ticket items. And what we're seeing is these big ticket items where you're normally not taking out a loan to purchase these. Yes, they have finance plans and things like that, but normally you're just paying cash for these. People are not going out and purchasing these big ticket items anymore. And they're slowing up because they realize they need to hold on to their funds, and they really don't want to put this on their credit card. They don't want to take another loan out. And we see that this is starting to slow up right now. If we look at the housing market, what do we see? Well, we know that new home sales, they were revised, and every other place was declining except for the South. We saw existing homes declining, and now we see pending homes declining. So we're starting to see that the housing market is in a downward trajectory. What else do we see happening in the housing market? Prices are starting to come down. You know what's going to happen when prices come down? People get nervous. Traffic's going to dry up. People are going to say, you know something, I'm not going to sell my house right now. This is how it all begins. And we need to remember something very important about pending home sales. They are an indicator on what the housing market is going to do. It's a sales leading indicator because they track the contract signings. So purchases of existing homes are tabulated when a deal closes, typically a month or two later. And this is how they can judge what's going to happen right now. And when we look at U.S. pending home sales, they did reach a peak around 2015, 2016. And ever since then, they've been declining every single month. And again, we've seen this before. This is what happened back in 2006 when everything peaked. Everything started to come down. Prices started to come down. Existing home sales started to come down. Pending home sales, contract signings declined. Now remember, this is all declining during a period when real estate is supposed to be booming. This is the summer months. The flowers are out. People are mowing their lawn. The houses are looking great. It's warm to go look at homes. People want to get in their homes before school starts so they can move their whole entire family. It's easier to move when you have warm weather. And guess what? Everything's going the opposite way. Now, on top of that, as everyone knows, we have interest rates moving up. Mortgage applications are declining. Refis are declining. And this whole thing is just going to end in one gigantic disaster like it did back in 2008, 2009. Because what we're seeing right now is that this whole thing is one gigantic bubble. Now, Mnuchin is out there, and he is saying that the market got their messages mixed up when he came out and said that he's going to be putting, or Trump is going to be putting the ban on China's investment in the U.S., and he is out there saying that, yeah, the messages got mixed up. He apologized, saying that this is not what he really meant to say. And it seems like this is the second time he's doing this, where these things just got mixed up and he said something that might not have been true, or he wasn't on the same page as everyone else, which I find very interesting. Lagarde is out there, and she is saying the Eurozone countries, they must prepare for financial shocks together. Now, I thought, coming from the IMF, if we go back a couple of months, that the economy was doing fantastically. That's going to grow tremendously. I mean, you know, they put out their projections. Of course, they're always wrong. And now she's on the other end, and we discussed this a little bit before, where she's saying that the Eurozone countries, they should work together to build resilience against future economic downturns. Now, why would there be future economic downturns if they're telling us the economy and all the countries are doing fantastically? Because they understand this whole thing was not supposed to happen. We were supposed to be in some type of an event right now where the world was going to be engulfed in some type of war or something else to cover up this whole entire system breaking up and collapsing. So she's out there saying that the EU countries with the euro, they should have a rainy day fund. And we discussed this before, where they're saying that all the countries should, raise taxes, cut spending, and put money into a rainy day fund when everything falls apart. She also added that it was critical for European countries to prepare for taking on any industries that might move from Britain following the Brexit. So we have the Brexit going on. We have Italy pulling away, and they're very nervous about this. What they're really saying, and what she's really saying, is that what they once had is breaking apart. And the remaining EU countries, if you want this to continue on, well, you're going to have to support it somehow, some way. Now, there was a leaked report from a Chinese government-backed think tank, which is warning of a potential financial panic in the world's second largest economy, which is China. A sign that some members of the nation's policy elite are growing concerned as market turbulence and trade tensions increase. Now, according to the study by the National Institute for Finance and Development that was seen by different news outlets, bond defaults, liquidity shortages, and the recent plunge in financial markets pose particular dangers at a time of rising U.S. interest rates and a trade spat with Washington. The think tank also warned that leveraged purchases of shares of stocks bought with margin loans have reached levels not seen since 2015, when a market crash erased around $5 trillion of value. The think tank concluded that China's State Council should be ready to implement any market support measures in coordination with the bank, the central bank, and other regulators. And they're saying they should even maybe contact the police or other government ministries to prepare for what is coming. Now, it's very interesting because when we look at Obama's presidency, the IMF, the main central banks, the biz, they never talked about this. They just told us how this recovery was fantastic, that things were moving in the right direction, everything was great. Then Trump came in, became president, and basically all of a sudden everything started to turn a little bit, that the economy is not doing that well. And of course, they're blaming it on the tariffs, that everything is breaking apart, that the EU nations should protect themselves. The biz which is the central bank of all central banks, is separating themselves from the banking industry, saying that, yeah, they're insolvent. And we're starting to hear a lot of this out there. And at the same time, they're telling us that the world economy is going to grow. So basically what they're doing right now is they're letting you know that something is coming, and this is what they like to do. They like to telegraph this in advance to say, hey, we told you that this was coming. We also told you that everything was fine, but we told you this was coming, so we're not to blame. Well, they are to blame. This is their system. They created it. We are under a central banking system where they spread debt to every single country, put every country into debt, and basically the central bank owns these countries because they can dictate anything they want to these countries. They can even push them into war. So right now what we're seeing is that these central banks, they're very worried about this system that we're in because their system is breaking down. That's what they're worried about. And they're looking to protect it in any way they possibly can. Now, the central bank of all central banks, the biz, they're separating themselves from all of this. And there's a reason for this is because they sit on the top. It's like the main Rothschild banking system where they oversee everything. And they don't care about their little piddly, branches of central banks around the world because they can be replaced in a second and they'll just call it a different name. They've done this in the past, even here in the United States, where they've had many different central banks in America. It wasn't called the Federal Reserve. They were called by other names. And they've also had central banks in other countries. So they don't care about that because they understand if they're intact on the very top level, all they need to do at that point is say, yeah, those systems are corrupt. This is why it happened. They'll separate themselves and then they'll basically create a new system. And that's really what they wanted to do. Now, they were going to do it in a completely different way, but now they have no alternative but to embrace what is happening and point the finger, most likely at Trump. And that's what they're doing right now. They're pointing the finger in that direction. They're preparing for what is coming, and they know eventually what's going to happen is this system's going to be ripped apart. That's the whole plan, is to rip the globalists, the central banking system completely apart, and the central banks, they are warning about this right now. So we are going to be going through this transition. It's approaching because the warning cries are getting louder. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.